Being 6:15, we'll open the October 22nd open session meeting of the Ayer Planning Board. Call the meeting to order. Ken Diskin substituting for Jeff Tillotson tonight. So I'd like to have a motion to approve the agenda. That's the first item of business.
So moved.
Nathan,
Second.
any changes or discussion on the agenda, Mark? Or Heather, or anyone? No? No. It's been moved and seconded, we'll put it to a vote.
Aye.
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 Okay, so the first item on our agenda is the review of the A&R plan for Wright Road and Sandy Way, 2 lots. Joseph McGuire.
This looks familiar.
Yes, it looks real familiar, yeah. Embarrassingly so.
Oh, jeez.
So we made the correction of the C note 2, not note 3. We also improved the arrows pointing to the right-of-way rather than the edge of pavement. So I believe those were the 2 corrections that you were looking for from the last meeting. So we're seeking endorsement of the A&R plan.
Okay, so everyone understands the changes that we requested?
Yeah, just don't come out.
Yeah.
In one door, out the other. Recusing yourself.
So just use it not to come out.
Any other discussion, Mark, or any recommendations, thoughts?
No, it's ready to endorse.
Yeah.
Ready to endorse?
My understanding, that was it, with just a couple of minor corrections.
Yeah.
So I
and
think
then
the
we're good
first
to
thing
go.
we have to do is accept the plan for,
When you make a motion to endorse, you're endorsing the plan, so.
right. But do we need to accept it as a complete plan and then vote to endorse it?
Yeah, you just endorse
It
it.
usually applies to site plan and subdivision
Yeah.
plans,
Okay.
but I think we can go straight to endorsement for
Any
A&R.
questions, Nathan?
No.
Jonathan?
No, I don't have any questions, thanks.
Chair doesn't have any questions either, or concerns. Thank you for making the changes.
You're welcome.
So, having none, we'll put the A&R to a vote. Need a motion to approve.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to approve the plan. How do I identify this?
Right in
what's
the
in-
title block.
Yes, for, owned by Joseph B. and Carrie L. McGuan. Plan dated October 18th, 2019.
October
What did I say?
10th.
Oh, I'm sorry.
yeah.
I stand corrected. Plan dated October 10th, and make a motion to approve. Second.
Where's the date you're referring to?
I was looking at this over here.
Maybe I got the difference.
It's written.
Okay, so that's the received date.
Yeah.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the plan for Joseph B. and Carrie L. McGuan, dated October 18th of 2019, for the subdivision of, the approval not required lots on Wright Road. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous.
Fantastic. Thanks for your help. Appreciate it.
Congratulations. Do we sign?
Yes, go right there.
Yeah, so I'll give a brief intro to
Yeah.
that.
And then it's just the name and the date. Do I put the date in?
Yeah, put the date.
Yes, put the date.
It's the 22nd, right?
Yes, sir.
Remember Terry Gensel?
Yeah,
I believe his former wife is the chair.
she was a circuit rider for
Yeah.
DP.
Right.
Yeah. What time this time?
I know this is great.
Yeah.
I love this. There's a couple towns that have done that, which is great for us.
Yeah, got a quick break to eat and get to the meeting and get home at a reasonable hour.
Nothing beats Board of Health in Lancaster at 10 o'clock on a Wednesday.
10 o'clock on Wednesday.
Yes.
I'll go Littleton Conservation, they're there till midnight Sunday.
Are they?
Oh, they have such a long agenda.
I remember, I had 2-page agendas there.
Yeah. Still that way.
So much work in Littleton.
We'll see you guys.
Yep.
No, we'll see you on Tuesday night for a while.
We'll be here.
You're invited for me.
I can stop anytime.
My only nice signature is anything I notarize, everything else is just a couple letters. Notary is the whole thing.
Blow your mind. You know the famous Walt Disney signature? The picture of the big swoopy? That's not a signature.
No, it's not.
You commissioned Will Eisner to do that for me.
Probably did. The older, my signature is just like my father's, they used to try to fake files and yours to sign off my progress.
You are too funny.
It looks exactly the same now. Same initials.
This, it's signed once by the chair, is that what happens with this?
What?
This form?
That's just the application.
Oh, we don't have to do anything with it?
No,
Great.
that's just for you to see.
Thanks.
No, I draft a letter afterwards, it just gets me another one I paid, by the way.
So, do you want to print me my line?
Yeah,
Or do you?
I
Oh, I
just want
by
one
the way.
full-size sign.
I know, I wish I could have made it. Was it somebody filmed?
Okay.
I don't know.
I'll leave you to.
Yes,
Sometimes they did.
yes, someone did.
Probably the Groton local cable.
Somebody did, because I remember seeing the tripods,
They
yeah.
sometimes film their things, just like we film stuff here.
It was a good talk.
Yeah.
Okay. Second item on our agenda, the continued public hearing, proposed subdivision off Shaker Road, 23 lots, Daniel and Joel Aho. And we're going to start this with Mr. Ashambo, and then we'll go to the applicant.
Okay, Mr. Chair, members of the board and the public, I'd just like to give a brief overview of what has occurred since the last meeting on this case. You might recall at the
We actually
October...
have a quorum in the room.
Yeah, hold on a second.
Oh. Okay.
Thank you.
Just giving a little briefing on what's transpired so far.
Yes.
With the subdivision. At the October 8th meeting, we had a fairly robust discussion with Mr. Curtis, the owner of the Shaker Hills Golf Course. And there are still issues that I believe the applicant needs to resolve with the golf course regarding the access easement and trucks going in and out. You may have an update on that later.
Okay.
Also, I was directed to prepare a scope of work for a traffic study, which I did, and Mr. Boardman and I met last week before I went to the conference, and we agreed that it looked like a good scope, and I sent out as many as I could before I left, and I sent out the rest yesterday to 5 firms. And I told all the firms that we needed the proposals this week. So far, I haven't received any, but I anticipate that this week they'll come in. It doesn't mean we need to wait till the next meeting to get this going.
Oh, great.
I would ask, once they start coming in, I might want to meet with 1 or 2 planning board members, a sub-quorum, just to review the proposals and see which one
What about the
best fits.
applicant as well?
Yeah, I'd just
Yeah.
like to see what the numbers are and make
Yeah.
sure that they're reasonable,
Sure, I'll-
obviously.
maybe
But if
we
you've got
could-
5, you should be pretty clear what the range should be.
Yeah, we can convene a meeting Thursday or Friday, I would anticipate.
Well, if we get the
People.
proposals,
Time to come
if we
in.
get the proposals.
Right, yes. Well, I know 2 are definitely working on them. And I'll name the firms now, just so you know
Okay.
who to expect. Ron Muller Associates out of Hopkinton, I think the one that you mentioned. Wesson and Sampson. McMahon Associates. MDM Transportation Consultants, and VHB. So they should be coming in very soon.
Everybody's really busy, I'm sure, so
Right, yeah.
we'll do what we can.
Also at the last meeting, Mr. Boardman described, he showed us a sketch of how the entrance to the subdivision road could be redesigned to, do away with the dog leg sort of awkward intersection. At that meeting, we also received extensive comments from the DPW, which I believe they're still incorporating into the final plan set. And also at the meeting that we had about the traffic study, Mr. Boardman also indicated he may have some questions to ask the board, going forward with the final design. There might be a few issues that we need to, discuss together with the applicant. So I think that brings us to where we are.
Well, the discussion regarding and the approval of the traffic study brings us into compliance with the 2 requests, one from the Board of Selectmen and one from the Planning Board of the Town of Harvard.
Right.
So we'll obviously communicate that to Harvard, that we are going out for a traffic study. Let them know. That's, they both were concerned with that, both boards. And we read their letters into the record at the town meeting. Excuse me, at our last meeting, not the town meeting.
That's
Our last
right.
meeting.
Yeah,
We have a town meeting coming up.
yeah.
Okay, so that was kind of a little bit of a follow-up. So you want to take it from there, John, and give us a summary?
Sure, I'll just take a couple of minutes and give you sort of an update of what we're doing. At this point, as far as the DPW comments, I'm sort of on hold on those. I think the big question is which direction we're going to go with access based on the golf course.
Okay.
So that's kind of the elephant in the room, and once that's resolved, then I think the rest of the comments and questions from all the departments can be incorporated and we can get to a plan that looks like something that's final. In terms of talking with the golf course, I appreciate that the board asked Mr. Curtis to come in. My client had communicated with him about a year ago about whether or not the access should be to the right or the left. At that time, he had stated that he really didn't have a concern as to whether it was to the left or the right, and he did have his concerns about signs and access. So that was before we filed the preliminary. So getting him in here at that last meeting and then hearing that the direction to the right seemed to be the way that he wanted to go was good for us to know. That being said, after the meeting, there was some additional communications between my client and Mr. Kerry Curley, who I guess is the agent for Mr. Curtis, in
Can you
terms of
clarify that again?
Yeah.
Clarify that again, please.
it's Kerry Curley, the real estate agent.
Okay, so real estate
I
agent.
believe he's acting for Mr. Curtis. He made the communications. That's all I can tell you. It wasn't direct with Mr. Curtis. About the morning after our last meeting, and they talked about access. They talked about again the monetary issues that had come up. So that there wasn't any resolution on that, but there was again additional conversation. So that was helpful. To that end, we put together a plan and sent it over to them that showed what a subdivision might look like if we made some minor adjustments to the house locations to allow the access to the right as opposed to the left. And we're kind of waiting for confirmation from them, and I'll just show you what that looked like real quick. So we're hoping to get something from them in either email or writing or speaking to them that says, yeah, this is what we want to see, and that gives us the ability to move forward.
So you're gonna base some of your final decisions on this solid input from them, is basically what you're telling us.
That's what I'm hoping. So this is basically the definitive subdivision that we filed, except that there were a row of 3 houses that were basically
You may
interfering with
wanna
this access.
See if we can use the board, just so the audience can see it, if possible.
we
Can
could-
everyone on the board see it as well? Us, amongst
Yeah, I can
us?
see it.
Okay, we can all see it from here.
Okay, so this is the same plan that was filed, the definitive subdivision, except in the definitive, we had 3 house lots that basically interfered with this access, and that allowed us to keep this access open. In this case, we just took one house and shifted it up. To get it out of the access, we took the other house and shifted it to the end, which then interferes with the access to the site at the back, and then we ended up setting the third one over here. So it's the same number of units in a slightly different configuration. But overall, the roadway location didn't change, the road length didn't change, the number of lots didn't change.
You sure the road length didn't change?
No, I didn't move the cul-de-sac. Cul-de-sac's still right here. Some of this gray is, the gray outlined in orange is where that gravel path is. So
Oh, I see.
I didn't move the road.
Okay.
I just moved a couple, 3 houses around, so, and shifted. So by putting this one here, these 3 became the common driveway where before these 3 were, and so it was a little driveway sliding around a little bit. But that was to give them an idea of yes, this can work, this is what it would look like, is this really what you prefer in terms of your access, and hopefully we can get some kind of confirmation from them that yes, that's what they want.
So you're gonna depend on communication with the owner of the golf course to determine the last final layout that you're talking about here, and then come back to us, is that the idea?
That would be the ideal
Because
situation,
you have to
yes.
redraw the whole thing and grade and
Yep.
whatever it is on the ground.
Well, again, if I'm not changing the road, it would just be regrading a couple of lots. So I'm hoping it's not a significant change, but again, I would prefer to have something from them that says they're happy with it before I go ahead and do it.
So we need to see, I guess, the plan just preceding that, because it's like, were those 3 houses, like the 5th, 6th, 7th, whatever they might be, were those in the same place?
No, those were moved, right?
These
That
three?
group, yeah,
Oh,
I didn't touch those.
okay.
But the other,
I can show you
The next
previous-
group were, well, they're still, yeah, that's a different layout.
No, let me get to the definitive. Oh, it's gonna be behind this, that's why I can't see it.
Okay,
That was the definitive that was filed.
okay.
This lot comes to here, this lot goes over there, and one comes over here. Other than that, the road's the same.
So the last thing you just pointed to, is that put a house behind that so-called big rock?
Yeah.
And doesn't that affect your open space ability and so forth that you had before?
I think we have, what, 4 acres of extra open space. It comes down to the math on the
Well,
sloped versus unsloped. I've maintained open space around the boulder and an access from there to the pond. It's not
Yeah, it's-
ideal.
No, that's
But-
not anywhere close to being what we had before with a wide area.
Agreed. But at this point, I'm trying to get confirmation from the golf course. We can work to tweak it and improve it once we've got some input from them.
to state the obvious then, with this proposal, what you're saying is the golf course would have access on the lower,
On the
to
right
the
hand
right
side.
branch.
Yep,
That would be theirs,
yep.
and then no trucks on the left, that would be,
There'd be no access,
there'd be
yeah.
no access, it'd be just
Yeah.
for the residents.
And that's the way it's legally set up now, so.
That's the deeded right of way.
Excuse me?
That's the deeded right of way.
Correct. Yeah. Well, it pretty much follows it, looks like. So are you recommending that we hold tight as a planning board until you resolve this issue? Is that what you're saying?
There's nothing to decide on tonight, that's for sure, and I would ask that we continue to your next regularly scheduled meeting, and hopefully I'll have more information at that time.
Yeah. And I also indicated we would like, any revised plan sets 5 days before the Tuesday meeting.
Yeah, I didn't intend to submit this,
Oh,
was
no.
more show and tell.
Oh, yeah, no, I know for tonight, we're fine, because it's concept, we're discussing the issues, but, what else? Oh, I was gonna mention, yes, Mr. Boardman gave the planning board an official, extension in which to act on the plan until December 10th, which is our meeting in December.
Mr. Boardman gave it to us, or
Yes.
the owner gave it?
Well, the owner. Through-
Yeah, I'm
yes,
Through your
Right.
office?
Yeah,
Yep.
Okay.
so that was requested at the last meeting.
Right.
I would note also, if anybody is bored on Saturday morning, we are going on a site walk with the Conservation Commission at the site at 8 a.m. So if you're not familiar with the site, I will be there, the Conservation Commission will be there, and
8 o'clock AM?
yeah, be a great time to wander around.
That might be good, because
Want to take a look at that rock?
the other time we did it, it was below,
About 8 degrees.
yeah,
It was cold.
It was a quick walk.
right.
Yeah, you see a lot more we do with conservation because they have a keener eye. They look for things that we may not be looking for. So they're looking for different
So that-
things.
Is, if you don't mind,
Yeah.
can junior planning board members, if I need to drag someone, or is that not allowed on the property? If I have to bring my kid, can I, okay, sorry.
No, thank you for asking. I do have clients
'Cause I
that get
would- I would
concerned
like
about
to come and
insurance
see
issues,
it,
but
and so I should be able to figure it out, but
Yeah.
it's always best.
and that's all I have, just an update on the communications and
I have a couple of things that, I don't know, does anyone else have any
No.
questions or thoughts right at the moment? Because I
Not at
have
the moment, no.
a few things that I had from the last meeting that I didn't bring up, but I'd like you guys to consider. We're not happy with that house that moved behind that wide opening, so I can tell you that right now.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty flat back there.
Yeah, but
It's still out of the 100.
there was definitely a solid concept with the other one to create an easily accessible open space area for the residents in the area. Now it's kind of blocked by that house, so
Yeah.
that, I'm not happy with that, so I'm not sure if I'd go for that or not.
Something to work on.
I'd really like Mr. Aho and his team to consider, things like that, which have an effect on the open space. And I'm gonna throw a very difficult thing out there at you. And that is consider that the very first house that's on the street would go away. And the reason for that is that you will create a definite green space at your entrance that provides a natural screening for the neighborhood at the expense of one house, basically. But you'll create a spot that won't show evidence of that being so forward to the street that it's like right in your eye as you drive down the road, you see that house.
It's right where the barn would be now.
Pretty much where the barn is now. So by creating that green space at the front with emphasis on maybe some landscaping, a monument entrance of some sort that would look good and, identify the place, I think you would create a sense that you're not crowding the street with the first house, and the neighborhood would respond by saying, you know what, that's a pretty good idea. So I would like you to consider that. That's my own idea. I'm speaking on my own. The board can, if they have any other ideas about that. And the other thing is, as you move those houses closer to the maintenance building in the back, we're gonna be looking for some kind of screening there. It's clear that when I looked at the approvals for the golf course, in the reverse, it was kind of strange that when the golf course built their facility, they required the golf course to screen the residences on the other subdivision on the other side, on Bennett's Crossing, with a lot of trees. So now we're in the reverse. We have an existing commercial use. We're coming in with a residential use. So I'll be talking to the board about us requiring a nice screen, which again would be a benefit to the developer, because you don't want
Very
your
much.
residents to see that commercial aspect next.
Yeah.
If we have there's a concept in town that's in all of our, zoning requirements that we're supposed to consider very strongly, the location of dissimilar uses as being, protected against one another. So we have basically a commercial use now, you're coming in with a residential use, so the emphasis to how you would screen that, how you would protect your residents and how from the noise and whatever else goes on at the golf course. And now, interestingly enough, with this particular approach that the owner of the golf course has taken, he's now gonna come, right between a couple of houses, and then he's gonna go right behind them,
Yeah,
which is a strange little
yeah.
unfortunate situation. So you really have a lot of screening to do, and it's, what the land is like out there, it's pretty tricky to excavate and plant, there's no loam there.
Yeah.
So these are things that are outside what you're asking for, what you're showing us. I just think they should be thought about as an improvement. There's another piece that we have.
Mayor?
Yeah,
Did
go
you
ahead.
wanna- I'm with you on the screening. I think that, we're talking on the right side there, but to block off the commercial aspects, the maintenance for the golf course. I'm not sure about up front. I'll tell you.
Okay.
I'm gonna tell you why.
I'm just saying, it's my
I
idea.
just because I know we're all sharing ideas. We're talking out loud. Because one of the things, like when I see it, I go by a place that's like Pingree Hill, right? And it's got a big monument, big sign. And it's like, well, wait a minute. Are we in Ayer or what? Is this part of Ayer or is this a separate place? And then when you look at A&Rs and you have a house, it's like, boom, it's pretty close to the street. And it says this is a place where people live in this part of town. And sometimes I'm not so sure that we want to, that's a great idea to really draw attention to. This is a distinct and separate environment on its own.
Well, they could,
So.
You know what I'm getting at?
I'm sorry.
go ahead, no.
Well,
Yeah.
to me, I'm hearing both ideas, and you could just not put a monument sign.
Could be.
Yeah, right.
And
Could be.
and it
I'm
could
just
be
saying,
greenscaping and a beautiful
greenscape.
entrance into your,
Right. And you could take the second house and move it a little further away from the third house, kind of get
That would be nice.
two instead of three in that area, something like that. That's just an idea for them to consider. I'm throwing these out because I'm sure the Aho's want to get the best development at the end of the day, and maybe they
Absolutely.
can think about it a little bit.
And I just, I'm liking what you're thinking, because my concern is that we end up with a place where people feel they're part of Ayer. And I just don't want, it's like, no, you're in a separate place, it's not Ayer, it's a distinct thing. No, we're all part of Ayer, and I just want to make sure
Good.
that's kept in mind.
Don't forget, when we go to town meeting next week, and actually it's in effect right now, unless it's voted down at town meeting, that we have the yield plan in place.
Indeed.
When you did the yield plan here, I think the count would change, guessing.
Would be
So
different.
you'd have less density
That's
if
right.
this would have come
Right,
at this point in time.
I understand.
So
got it.
it's the sign, not the
it's just
space.
an edge, it's an edge towards that. One of the other things that we have, I'm gonna follow up with a couple more
Sure.
things. We have in our subdivision regulations now, the ability for the board to request a recreation, not an open space, but a recreation space within subdivisions. So we've talked about open space. You'll have to get the open space ironed out with us and with conservation. But I'd like you to consider a recreation space as well, another spot, maybe a mini recreation area for children in the neighborhood. We're gonna be potentially talking about quite a few children living out here in an area that's kind of tucked away with no access to any kind of a park within quite a distance. So I'm gonna recommend that the planning board discuss this in the future, that we determine if you can give us a recreation space of some sort, which is, call it what you want, you know, play area, it's got swings, it's got some kind of area where kids can walk, some benches, people can take a walk around the neighborhood, sit down and take a break, you know, whatever the case might be. But again, I'm asking you to consider that.
Can you do that in the open space?
I presume you could probably do it in the open space, you know, but it's a recreation space separate from an open space. The open space sometimes is criteria about clearing and leaving it its untouched.
Undisturbed, right.
But that's a compromise that I think we could work out. But it's just another thought that in our oldest of regulations that we have in town, we talk about the idea of having recreation
Right,
space
yes, a certain
within
percentage.
new
I
subdivisions.
forget if it was 5% or something.
There's some number
area.
there, but
There's a number there, and it's, before the town adopted open space residential development, is to have a playground or something, but
right.
I think it would be reasonable, since we have a large open space requirement now under the OSRD, to allow that playground to be, you know, in some of the open space, not the highest value forest area, but, you know, area close to the houses.
But I'm bringing it up because I don't think anyone's seen that in print, but is there in old regulation?
Yeah,
So,
it's in our 1980 something subdivision regs, which we'll be updating
We can
at
get
some
rid of the
point.
boulder, we can put it there.
There you go. You can blast, you tell me you can blast ledge
Or-
like a cinch, you know?
So
so-
the boulder is a
The
climate.
boulder's gonna be the
It's
best.
the climbing wall that you don't need to build.
It's like kids.
That is
The play
space.
space.
That's the best thing ever. You gotta put
It is the
something
Well,
like
you
a
could leave,
bowl or
there you go.
a.
So there's the kind of thought process that all of us could chip into, or you could chip into.
Exactly.
Leave the
It could be
boulder,
the center
create an
point.
area right around it,
Exactly.
get rid of that house behind it.
And make a nice,
You know,
Well, that'd be
then you've got a
beautiful.
spot, that you got a highlighted spot that says, look, here's the center of our project, right
Get rid
here.
of my house, you're killing me.
I don't think so. I know enough about your business. So that's one of the things I had. Another thing we haven't talked about, and as we may as well keep going,
Sure, get them on the list. We
we
can check them off.
we haven't, and I'm not sure that DPW brought this up either, but when the neighborhood met with conservation, they talked about something that's particular to that corner of the road down there and happens to be snow storage, which we hadn't heard in this board. I did hear it at another board. And so I'd like your team to come in, and typically, again, we need this in subdivision regulations where we have a closed loop type arrangement
Right,
here.
when,
An area for snow storage. So we should be showing that on your final plans as to where you designate the snow storage, and as this gets plowed, where does it go? Because of the tightness, especially of the streets and turnarounds and whatever we have there. So, snow storage, screening from the golf course we talked about. We got the extension already.
right, yep. We're lining up the traffic study.
Talked about the agreement, and I got a new
Yep.
name, Kerry Curley, agent for John Golf Course. All right, so does anyone else on the board have any comments that are new tonight or want to add to the discussion, and then we'll consider the extension?
I'll add to just the buffering as you go in. If this goes into place, there will be, we've talked at length, that there will be a lot of truck and heavy traffic. So another thing to consider is, you know, how you slow them down. You know, will there ever be speed bumps in this road? So if that's also some mechanism that redirects drivers' attention that they're in a residential area.
I think it's a great idea. We could easily put it right just beyond the Y in the road,
Might
where it's on their access point.
A speed bump?
Traffic calming measure.
something that.
You can ask DPW what their thoughts are
Yeah,
on
what
that.
they want.
Well,
Yeah.
what I'm
Sometimes
getting is
they're-
it wouldn't be on the street,
They-
beyond their little driveway piece.
That's right, they might be concerned about plowing over or
I was
whatever it
thinking about
is.
something like down here.
Okay.
To slow them down coming out this way, and then slow them down if they happen to be going this way. I understand what you're saying, maybe not on the street because it's
Right.
a danger.
Yeah.
But what tells the drivers that they're, you know, pay attention,
At minimum, some signage or something, yeah.
right?
It's definitely gonna have to be.
And the signage, I was thinking about signs as well, right? That first home is going to be peppered with signs along the,
Yeah,
I don't know, slow down children, stay, trucks stay to the right, whatever. So another reason to consider what that space looks like.
I think there's a lot going on
Yeah.
right at that entrance that we want to be careful of with the snow and with trucks and with whatever signage, like you said, Nathan.
Yeah.
And
And then
that's why I'm recommending you move that house out of there.
is the intent with the open space in this OSRD application for the public to have access to the?
That's a question we've been asking since day one, and I'm not sure we've ever come to a conclusion on that.
Okay,
I've also spoke to conservation about it, and hopefully we can get some input from them, maybe would be the best answer on that, because we haven't gotten anything from the planning board yet that said we envision this as public space access or not, so.
Are you meeting with conservation this Thursday?
Sidewalk on Saturday and
Oh, all right, so
then the
there's
following meeting.
ample opportunities
Yeah.
to
want me to make
discuss
a
that.
recommendation on that or comment on that?
You could comment on it, yeah,
So,
I'd like to see what
the-
they have to say as well.
I think DPW asked the same question, what's the
Right.
vision on the open space in terms
Yeah.
of who uses it and access?
And maintains is my
It's-
question.
Right, yes. Eventually, we have to determine who will own the open space, whether it's a homeowners association or whatever, and then who will monitor the conservation restriction. Those should be two separate entities.
Right. So you got two parts.
It's a two-part thing. We learned this the hard way with the
Right.
previous subdivision.
Were you in the room when we discussed this with the project across the street? Okay, so let's clarify that because this is the perfect time to bring that.
Great.
Yeah.
So what our expectation will be and what you should go ahead and do at this point in time is you should write 2 letters or 1 letter with 2 topics. The first part of the topic would be to clarify who's going to be responsible for the conservation restriction, if you request the town to do that, or however you want to request it, and who's going to own and maintain the open space, if you want the town to do that. So what's going to end up happening is you'll get bounced around with no conclusion unless you request what you want.
Okay.
So you should come in with a statement and say, we request, that the town hold a conservation restriction, or whatever you want, or you go to the trustees of reservations, or go to whomever is in the business of holding those conservation restrictions. In the second part, you should request how you want to handle the open space and who's going to be responsible for the open space. And that's about all I'll say on that right
No,
now.
that's fine.
But that would be the
I've
best.
handled it many different ways in many different towns, so
Right.
it's.
Right, because it's new in air though.
Yep.
You're gonna want to
Learning process.
request
Yeah.
how you see it, and then let the
Get approved or
town,
denied, yeah.
let the town get back to you with what they'll see as the way going forward with it. Because otherwise, I guarantee you, it'll never get answered.
Yeah. What it appears to be now, and discussing with council, is that the combination of a homeowners association controlling or owning the open space with some sort of mechanism for the homeowners association to fund the monitoring of the easement, the conservation restriction, I should say, might be the best combination in terms of what the law permits and ease of setting that up, so to speak.
And that's how the other subdivision in town is.
It's not done yet.
It's not done
It's
yet, but
proceeding.
we're pursuing
Right,
that
so-
avenue, yes.
So that's why I'm
Yes.
thinking it's best for you to come in with your question as well. And then it can get resolved. But until it is resolved, it's still just, maybe this is what happens, maybe that's what
Right,
happens.
yeah,
It's not
that's-
locked in yet. So I don't want you guys to suffer the consequence of being in that void.
Right, yeah,
If you can avoid it right now by starting the process.
Yeah.
The question.
we're bringing it up relatively early compared to the
I think
final
it's
decision
perfect right
date.
now.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
it's good
this
to
is
do
the
it now.
time,
Yeah.
exactly.
Typically, it's included as a condition of a subdivision approval,
Right.
and the final
Right.
details get hashed out after the fact.
Right.
But the intent gets laid out
Yes.
in the
Yes.
decision, so that at least everybody
Right.
knows which direction they're going.
Yes.
It's how I've seen it in most towns.
Yeah.
Okay. Does anyone else on the board have a question or thought before we request an extension? We have the extension. I guess
We have
can
the
vote.
extension, so It would
So
be just to continue the hearing until the next meeting.
if everyone's in agreement, I'll accept the motion to continue to the next meeting. Oh, excuse me.
I was
Excuse me,
gonna
the
say, we
public.
didn't ask
Yeah,
for
yeah.
the public.
Oh, no, any public,
Okay,
well,
sorry.
public input.
Miss
Yes.
Tracy.
We're still here.
Yes,
Meeting.
Yes.
I remembered.
go ahead.
Quick question for you, because Kathleen wasn't here. Do you mind if I take a photograph of this new
Yeah.
No, sure,
setup
go ahead.
here?
I can give you one if you'd like.
That'd be great. That would be great.
And again,
Kathleen?
this is just a presentation plan.
Okay, great, I understand. So just so that I understand, John, thanks so much.
You won't want to throw in your files.
Yeah.
Yeah, pull into the file.
I gotta put it in minutes.
Just so I understand.
Sure. Through the chairman.
Mr.
Should be through the
Curtis
chairman.
wants to use this road for the access to
That
the-
was what was stated at the last public hearing, correct?
Okay, and that's what your discussions with him this week indicated, that he still wanted to continue to use that, and then you guys would use this for these houses back here?
That's what that plan's showing, and again, we're hoping to get some confirmation from him before
I
we
offered it
proceed.
to him either way and whatever, but I haven't heard any response.
I see, okay, so once that is confirmed, is that something that the planning board will need to have confirmation
Through the chairman.
on?
You should be asking us
So,
that.
wait a minute.
Mr.
Yeah.
Sorry, is that the way it works? Sorry.
Yeah, that wasn't clearly said. So typically, what I've learned here is that whenever anyone speaks, they have to speak to the chair. Even if I
Okay.
speak, I have to speak to the chair, and the
Okay.
chair speaks to the person.
That makes sense, thank you.
Run it
It's
through.
very archaic, but it works for the
No,
system.
that works, that works. So is that what would happen, Mr. Chairman? That this would not move forward until it's presented to the planning board? Is that right?
At this point in time, it cannot move forward because that hasn't been decided. Number one, the location of the final location of the streets and the houses.
Okay.
So we can't move forward. And we'll take an extension. Well, first of all, we'll keep it continuing it to each meeting. And then we have typically a deadline of how many days we can react to a plan and approve it or deny it. So we're going to get an extension on that original scheduled deadline to December 10th, which they've offered already.
Okay.
So at this point in time, the answer to your question is yes. We are still waiting for this to get resolved so we can act on whatever plan is the final plan.
I see, okay, thank you for that clarification. Okay, now I understand, thank you, John.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Mr. Tracy.
Daniel Tracy, Shaker Road. I had a question from Mark with regard to the proposed traffic study. Could you go into more detail on what the scope of that study
Oh, good point.
includes?
Right, Heather, did we bring copies of the scope down with us? No, all right.
I think I can share one.
Well, I'm not sure if it's recent, let me see.
We'll have it roughed out the last.
Otherwise, I could email, yeah, it's a public document. Oh, yeah, that is recent.
Nice work, John.
Good. I'll just share this with Tracy right now.
Wait a minute, before you do that, that was from the last meeting, or is that
No.
what you actually did?
No, this is what I sent out, I think, right before I went to the conference. So this is what was sent out to the consultants. I can tell because the C is in red.
Where did you get that?
Didn't
from?
correct that.
Okay.
I sent this to the board through
Okay.
Heather last week,
Okay, good.
Wednesday, I believe.
Just wanted to make sure that it's the copy that actually was the one that went out.
So this is what we're working off of. I sent it to 5 engineering firms. We have not received any responses yet, but then again, I just sent out most of them yesterday, end of last week. So I told them that because we're moving quickly, we need to decide this week, by the end of the week, to get somebody engaged in the traffic study.
Yeah.
I'd like to clarify, we're not moving quickly, we're just trying to move the process.
Oh, yeah, well, it
At
takes
the
a
right
while to
pace,
do a traffic
because it
study.
takes
Well,
time to get
I'm
everybody's
thinking about
proposals.
December 10th in mind, you know, yeah, so we
Just a
do
date.
have to move quickly in order to get all the information we need
Yeah.
by December 10th.
So I can't read through this immediately, but I guess I had 2 concerns. One is with regard to traffic going down Shaker Road into Harvard. Is that part of the scope of the study? to analyze?
Short, I think the proposal is to place a traffic counter a short distance into Harvard, but not very far, because, it's aiming, just beyond like the entrance to the golf course essentially, or within like a quarter mile of that. But we're not going to be studying the whole network of Shaker Road all the way down into Harvard.
Well, I think, I guess my concern is, maybe it's too late to amend the proposal, but my concern is that further down, beyond the quarter mile, you know, it's a small, narrow, windy road with several blind turns, and I would think those factors would impact the, you know, the
Well-
decisions with regard to traffic coming out of the proposed development and
Right,
other
right.
traffic going along.
Yeah, one of the key aspects of the traffic study, the most basic thing is like turning movements in and out of the subdivision. So based on, you know, trip to work data and, you know, all this statistical data that exists out there, they'll be able to determine roughly which percentage of residents will be going north on Shaker to get up to 2A, you know, hit that network versus who will be wanting to go towards Route 2 to the south. So that'll give us a lot of information to see what the potential impact on the Harvard road system would be versus the Ayer road system. So, you know, if there are any surprises that come out of the traffic study, maybe we need to look a little bit further. But, you know, given the relatively small size of the subdivision and the fact that the employment centers tend to be to the north, you know, it sounded reasonable to keep the focus in this general area, you know.
And
Yeah, but
and part of it was a site visit by the traffic engineer, so I don't know any good traffic
Right, yes.
engineer that's not gonna drive 2 miles either direction to see what's going on.
Exactly.
Oh, but-
He's gonna look at the whole neighborhood.
Now, looking at you know, the section of Shaker Road between the proposed development and
Right.
the Shaker Village is no more than a half mile in length. And, or slightly over a half mile, I guess, for the total.
I'm sure they'll
distance.
drive down.
Right, but, yeah, in
But
fact,
that's a crucial part, and I think the letter that you read last week from, or acknowledged you had a letter from the Harvard Board of Selectmen, you know, spoke to some of the issues that I think do impact, should impact this traffic study. My other concern is that if this study is launched in November or December, you know, you won't have the numbers of cars being monitored or the pedestrian or cycling traffic. This is a road, Shaker Road is heavily used both by pedestrians coming from the Ayer side and from the Harvard side, as well as a lot of cyclists. It's one of the main routes for several of the big cycling events, as well as for everyday cyclists to use. And I'm just very concerned about increased traffic, you know, with regard to pedestrians, cyclists, and just the narrowness of that road with blind curves, setting up the prospect for head-on collisions and, you know, significant public safety issues.
well, yeah, the traffic study does call that out, looking at the accident data, and, you know, I believe it takes into account multimodal issues, as you were talking about, the non-automobile traffic. You know, so, you know, I believe it'll give us good information to assess the impacts of the subdivision in both Harvard and Massachusetts, and, I mean, Ayer. And,
One of the things that's gonna be a little tricky about this traffic study is we're gonna get all these counts of traffic. And of course, as you guys are aware, the heaviest traffic is gonna be on Saturday and Sunday. And it's gonna end at the entrance to Shaker Hills Country Club. So there's gonna have to be some kind of an analysis to figure out, may have to put I'm thinking off the top of my head here, but gonna have to probably have a traffic, what do you call that, thing they put on the road? you know,
well,
the
traffic counter,
Counter,
right, yeah, and that's.
right
part of
outside the
plan.
subdivision, and then a second one beyond the entrance to Shaker Hills, because you're gonna want to discount, I think, Shaker Hills doesn't cause a safety issue, I don't believe, beyond the entrance to Shaker Hills. But if you look at all the count right at the exit from the subdivision, you'd say to yourself, wait a minute, all these cars, you're assuming they're going beyond Shaker Hills Country Club, but they're not. So we're gonna have to have a subtraction beyond the country club to get just what goes to Shaker Village, and one right outside the subdivision, both going south,
Right.
to determine how much is going south
Oh, right, yeah.
only to the country club, and how much is going south beyond the country club.
Right, yes.
So you might have to, I'm not sure if that's in the scope,
I'm not sure, but
but
I
to get a
think,
thorough examination of what you
Right.
guys are concerned about is not just the traffic. You're really more concerned about the traffic, I think, that goes, there's gonna be a minimal increase about traffic that goes beyond your house, but the road section you're talking about is south of the entrance to Shaker Hills Country Club. A real windy, narrow spot that's like 16 feet wide and
Yeah.
goes straight downhill.
right.
So we're gonna have to monitor that
That's a
point,
very good, yeah,
plus
very good
the
point.
entrance to
Yep.
the subdivision.
Plus this time of year.
Time of year.
Oh, I understand that,
Very-
yeah, the seasonal aspect of
Very
it.
little
Right.
to for
Well,
traffic.
the study would be done in November, because we have to decide on the
That's
case in
when-
December,
It
so.
closes.
Yeah, it's getting ready to
Close to
close.
November.
Well, we can't control the weather. We can
Right,
control
I
when
know,
they close.
But
But
the school's still in session, and the plan is to do both weekday peak hour, AM and PM peak, and weekday,
Yeah.
likely on a Saturday, weekend, likely on a Saturday. So we'll get both, commuter traffic and recreational traffic by doing a weekday, weekend count.
And we can relay these concerns, obviously, to the
Yeah,
traffic
traffic
engineer.
consultant.
And they have methods of dealing with
Oh,
all
yeah.
of that.
And
If it's
typically,
during
too,
school or not during school, or during peak or not peak, they use the IAT trip generation to adjust the numbers accordingly. So
Right.
they adjust for all that if we make sure that they're aware of it.
Right.
And that shouldn't be an issue.
And, typically at the beginning of hiring a consultant, especially for a traffic study, there's a initial meeting where you can refine the scope a little bit. Not a lot, because I could add or subtract on the estimate, but, to fine tune things a little bit. Like what you just mentioned, having 2 traffic counters in the vicinity of the golf course, that makes sense. And, stuff like that we can,
So these have been helpful comments to hear, so we can make sure we
Yes.
include some
Right.
of that to the
yes.
traffic study.
Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate, Kathleen Shields, Shaker Road, sorry. I just wanted to reiterate what Dan said about the importance of continuing your study down Shaker Road. And I think that, the town of Harvard was obviously an impetus to get this traffic study going and started.
I don't believe that's true.
Well, I think at the last meeting when the letter was read.
We were gonna do a traffic study despite what anyone else
Yeah.
thought.
Well, I guess maybe more of my point is that I think once that letter was read about the concern of the town of Harvard for the road and the increased traffic along a very dangerous, windy country road, I think some of those things were taken into consideration for the traffic study, and I'm just wondering why that wasn't, sort of included in this study to go a little further down Shaker Road. It's really a public safety concern and issue. There's a lot of people that walk along that road and run along that road, including the Tracys. It's going to impact public safety along that road. And it's not miles down the road, it is just right there. And I worked both in Boston and south of Boston. And I always took Shaker Road as my commuting route to get to Route 2 and to get to south on 495. So, people definitely use that road for commuting. So I just think it would be irresponsible to not include that dangerous part of Shaker Road in assessment of the increased traffic impact to that
I think
area.
we just talked about that. My suggestion to put the counter beyond the south of the golf course entrance was to pick up whatever was going beyond the golf course down Shaker Road. That was the exact what I said. So, yeah, there's.
Okay, all right, so they'll assess that part of the road.
Yeah.
The other point I just wanted to make was, with the trucks going through the development here, I don't know if you've considered whether or not cars would park along the road on occasion, and whether or not the trucks would actually be able to pass. And especially with some of these shared driveways, I could imagine that there would be instances where people would maybe park along the road. The truck would not really be able to go to the left or the shoulder at the left of the road is going to be a soft shoulder, a very steep drop off there.
There's no soft shoulder.
Well, the
pavement-
road as it is now is very close to the
Right.
corner.
That won't resemble, when there's a new road built, whatever's there now will not resemble what's there in the future. But the paved surface we talked about already, I believe is going to be compromised to 22 feet. We started with a 20-foot applicant request. We increased it to 22 feet. That's 2 11-foot wide lanes, even with a car parked on the side. I'm not belittling the point, I'm just making a comment that if a car happened to be parked on the side of the street, it would still have about 12 feet or more to get by. A truck should be able to get by.
Yeah.
So, and the other thing that we're gonna find here, we should find out from this study that, and put some accuracy. You know, I know it's a timing thing because the golf course might close soon, but we should find out with some accuracy how many trucks go in there. And whether it's, you know, 20 trucks a day or 3.
Could I make a suggestion? Because I'm sure that Shaker Hills has, you know, data.
He's told us already.
The
He
data
said 5.
on all of this, right?
He said like 5 a day.
So at different times of the year and
Right.
everything, so, yeah. That's what I'm wondering is, would you, a counter at this time of year for truck traffic or car traffic obviously does not show the real impact
Right.
of the golf course.
Right.
So being able to use their data, and you really should use peak season data.
Yeah, no, we intend to do that.
Thank you.
You should not feel apprehensive that we're gonna overlook any point that we feel is important in the traffic study. So we're gonna take a close look at that.
Yeah.
We did it before with other projects, and sometimes it's the longest and most drawn-out aspect of a development's approval is the traffic study. So you can feel comfortable, we'll look closely at that. But I can also tell you that there's no way we can rebuild the road beyond Shaker Hills and get rid of that narrow curvy road and the slope drop off.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly our concern, is that that road can't be made safer.
Yeah, it's
It's
just a
unfortunate. because
possible road.
It's a very dangerous road,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's too
You can
bad.
only limit the number of cars.
We could have guardrail. The town of Harvard could do something about it, I guess. It was an old guardrail. I saw the remnants of
Yeah.
some that were broken off.
Well, there was one at the end of Shaker Road where,
Right,
at the culvert too, and there has not been any guardrail there for probably 25 years.
right.
It's incredibly dangerous, and I hope that the town of Ayer plans to do something with that corner, because people can go straight there and end up right in the water.
I think Mr. Aho told me he was gonna repair that guardrail. I remember that discussion.
I could build a house on the end.
He's gonna put a house on stilts and put the guardrail under it. To Tracy's, any more?
Yeah, just again to reiterate that we've lived here a long time and we see the tremendous difference seasonally
Okay.
in what happens traffic-wise.
Right.
Okay.
Again, not to belittle the point,
Right.
but also a lot of traffic which is supposed to go to the right down Shaker Road toward Ayer, which is what the golf course traffic is supposed to do, doesn't. It goes back in the other direction.
Right.
So there's a lot of funneling in both directions and in as well.
Right, but I agree with what you just said, and in point of fact, I see the radius at the golf course, they got rid of the point that was there.
Right.
And they made a radius out of it, so
Yeah.
that people can leave and go left.
Yeah.
And people coming from
Which
Shaker
they're not
Hills,
supposed to have done.
that is not in our control.
Right.
That is in
right.
your control.
No,
So
that's
take
not.
that to the town of Harvard.
It's the town of Harvard,
Because we
exactly.
cannot
But just for
change
your
that.
information,
No.
that doing this traffic
Yeah.
study now is, again, it's a seasonal, there's a
Right.
huge fluctuation. We can't do anything about the seasons, but there's a huge fluctuation. That was my first point. My second point was I was wondering if there was any input on what was happening with the utilities that were supposed to go up Shaker Road.
I
Is
think
any of that
that's
going to
just-
be addressed today?
It's
Not
not,
today.
it's still on hold, yeah.
That's up just
It's on hold.
hold
at
right
this
now?
point. Yeah.
Okay, so we don't know where that might
No.
what might happen with that yet?
We don't know if there's continued negotiation with the golf course and the applicant to go in the other direction. We don't know for sure. All those things are hanging until there's really 2 big issues that need to be resolved. This is number 1, and the utility location is probably number 2.
I see, okay. And then my third question was, public is not invited to the site walk
Not with conservation, no.
with conservation, right? Even if we're quiet? No?
No.
If we don't say a word, not allowed, okay.
I'm speaking for conservation, but I've asked the same exact question that you asked when I was sitting in the audience and
Okay,
asking it of conservation. And I can tell you the answer was no.
good enough. Okay, thank you.
Anybody else on the board? Okay, I'll accept a motion to continue to the next regularly scheduled.
So moved, the motion to continue the public hearing on the proposed subdivision of Shaker Road, 23 lots, Kendall and Joe Howe, until our next meeting on November 12th.
It's been moved
Second.
and seconded to allow the continuation of the public
Thank you very
hearing
much.
for the 23 lot subdivision.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, aye. Unanimous. On our agenda is the discussion of the meeting and application materials as placed on the agenda by professionals, I believe.
Chair. The
Oh, by
chair.
Jeff, right?
Did Jeff want to get on
Oh,
the discussion?
yeah.
Yes.
No.
Oh, okay. It's placed on by our chair, excuse me.
He's not here.
Who's not here?
Yeah, I discussed this with Jeff briefly in a phone conversation before his incident. And, basically his concern was, with the recent subdivisions, there were cases where the board was getting materials from either the consultant or the applicant, at the last minute again. And we were falling back
No
into
chance
that.
to
And,
review it.
right. And, our rules and regs state that, whenever possible, or it's the best practice is to get material that you'd like the board to review at a meeting 5 days ahead of time. So that would go out in our staff reports whenever possible, the Thursday or Friday ahead of the Tuesday meeting. However, and especially since we're dealing with the first two subdivisions under the new bylaw, it's been kind of difficult to do that at times with the consultant and, last minute changes. But I wanted to emphasize to the board that if somebody does get us something the evening of a meeting, we're not obligated as a board to review it at that particular meeting or to even comment on it. We'll say, thank you for the new information or the new plan set or whatever. We don't have time to review this tonight. We will take this up at the next meeting. I think we will be getting better at this. There are many lessons that I've learned in the process of going through these first two subdivisions, time-wise, and, setting the consultant review in place earlier in the process, et cetera, et cetera. I think we're learning from this, but I know that it's been frustrating at times to receive materials at the last minute, and we're going to strive to do better in the future. And, as you saw, I told Mr. Boardman that, if you expect the planning board to review and act on, in an official capacity, some revised plan, get it to us 5 days ahead of time. So, that's good. But, I know there have been cases recently, especially due to a variety of reasons, that has not occurred. So.
I have a comment on when you're done.
Yes.
And this is from personal experience and from attending the meetings, it's like those folks did. There's definitely been a attitude by presenters and applicants as they came before the planning board in the past, that they could pull this off, that they could just put things in at the last minute and, that would be okay. So, backing this whole theory up, we really need to set up some kind of a standard that says, and there's no breaking the standard, we must have it a certain number of days ahead. And I'll give you an example of the town of Andover where I had to submit and work with engineers and submit plans. To get on the agenda of the meeting with either the Board of Appeals, the Conservation, or the Planning Board, you had to have everything in. They had actually a printed schedule online that said, here's our meeting date, here's when the materials have to be received.
Yes.
So you had to receive the materials by that date, by noontime that day, to get on a meeting. It might be 2 or 3 weeks later, and that's the way they ran it. And if you didn't, and there was no leeway.
Right.
And you had to pray, if you were gonna be a day late, you might have to go in and get on your hands and knees and say, come on, I missed one piece of paper, can I make that agenda?
Just, we do that now.
Okay, good.
I do that when people call and ask. So I told you on the phone today, the A&R today, it came in on Friday, but since we'd already reviewed it, I kind of let it slide by. But
Right.
typically, it's the Tuesday beforehand, I won't let anything come in. And it's A&Rs are tough because of the 21-day period. So usually, like David Ross is very good, understands that, and a lot of them will understand that. I'm like, you gotta hold off, please don't bring it to me, because I can't have it stamped in yet. And they'll do that. A lot of them are really good about this. What it is with the consultants and stuff, and I've done multiple subdivisions in multiple different towns, and you do get materials, unfortunately, last minute, and you do just have to say, we can't review it.
Right.
Because it's just how it comes about, because Mark Wetzel will finish something and he'll send it right off, and that might be the Tuesday before a meeting, might be a Wednesday before the meeting, and he'll complain the same thing, that we get him stuff last minute, and then he gives us stuff last minute, and no one, it is, but as far as applications coming in, I have my deadlines and those are all done, and as you see, you get the applications, and as part of the rules and regs I do, and Mark will read this, I give him to review to make sure they're complete before I even stamp them in and set the date. So all that's being done, it's just the materials coming in after the fact.
Right, so we're gonna have these periods of time where there's gonna be multiple things come in at once, and that's where we're gonna have to be more aware of this timing. There's gonna be times when maybe we don't have anything coming in. We can be a little more relaxed at that point in time, but there's no question that we as a board, and I'm sure you professionals, want the stuff with everyone to have enough time to review it.
Right, yes, and it's especially tough at the first one, because we're learning how to
Right.
manage all these concurrent reviews by different people, and, it's not an excuse. I think we're getting better, but I think the thing to keep in mind is, just because somebody brings us information at a meeting, which they might still do, we don't have to review it at that particular meeting. And we will try, we will endeavor whenever possible, especially for new applications, to make sure that they get us everything before it goes on the agenda in an official capacity.
I should have brought this up when I had the applicant here, but I'm gonna, right at the moment, we have a definitive subdivision, we have a set of plans in the office for the Aho subdivision.
Yes.
Right.
We didn't bring a set of those plans to the meeting. He has his one sheet thing.
Yeah, I tend to sometimes I'll bring the folders down, and depending on what we have, like the last few meetings, we had 2 subdivisions and the site plan. My stack is like this. So I know the engineer brings those down, brings their own set of plans to put in the easel and stuff, so I tend to not to carry files that are about this
No, I'm not
tall.
talking about that. I'm talking about whatever number of drawings are in the set. The cover page
Yep.
Yeah,
and whatever.
Yeah,
If
just
drawings
file.
10,
Right.
15, 20, whatever the number is, that, we should have a set of those here
Oh,
at this
okay.
meeting.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Not
Yep.
just him walking up to the
Right.
board
Yep.
with
We could
his
have
one
our-
sheet.
our own
Which you all did receive the first, when you opened the hearing.
Right, but that was 11.5 by 17. I'm thinking we should keep one full
So have
size,
one
one
full
full-size set
Yep.
at the meeting.
Yeah.
So if we need to look at a full-size set, we can flip it back and forth when we get to that point. We're gonna get to the point where we're gonna be, maybe I'm looking
Like the
at it, maybe
reconfigure
no one
this
else,
table.
but I'm gonna be looking at utilities, and I'm gonna be looking at all
Yeah,
these
you
different.
should get the reconfigure the table, then it's not gonna fit in this table.
Well, we can figure it out.
We'll figure it
This
out.
is America. We
The
can-
other-
I'm just thinking out loud that's
Yeah.
We can use that too.
to do. Because I
Like-
have no problem doing that and leaving them set up there in order, that's fine. It just can't fit on this.
I just think we need to have a full set of drawings, not the 11, available at the meeting. when we
Right,
come.
yeah, that's
If we have to buy another, whatever these things cost,
an easel. Yeah.
easel set up.
Forgive me for going back a step, but just regarding the timing, I do appreciate the idea of the standardized rules for acceptance of materials, and I think all the reasoning is exactly sound. Only my one concern is that we don't hoist ourselves by our own petard. That is, that we don't box ourselves in where we fail, because we put those demands in, we fail to make a deadline for a decision. As long as that won't happen. That
Right,
won't
yeah.
happen.
That was part of the problem with
Okay.
the first subdivision,
Okay.
is we were operating on an extension, so
Exactly.
we couldn't really say, oh, don't give us that information, we have to
We
make a
can't,
decision
right.
next week,
We
Yeah.
do, right.
So-
That's what I was thinking, that was, I was reflecting on my,
Yes,
okay.
right.
Well, the other point is that it hasn't, even with the deadlines that we had, we made it
Yep.
happen. So
Right.
we got it
We
resolved,
worked it
we
out.
finished it up.
Yeah, we did.
And most of the applicants understand that they need to fall in line with these requirements, because they do it in every other town.
Right.
That's what I'm getting at. I
Yeah.
don't want Ayer to be left as the one, that's the one we can do later on, because we have to do it over here.
Right.
We gotta do it in Groton,
Yes.
Littleton, and Acton, and so forth, Westford.
Continued for a year.
And
Let's
that's
do it
the way
again.
it was, so,
Okay.
we're slowly changing the culture here.
All right, that's fair enough.
Anything else on that meeting stuff? No?
I'll just say one thing, just to reiterate what Jonathan said, which is, if we're gonna require things earlier and have a deadline for that, then how do we move expeditiously, right? Not necessarily faster than what we need to, but to get more familiar. Our part then would be to make sure we're moving at a good pace.
And this is a good segue to the subdivision rules and regs.
Yes, where are we?
Well, I wanted to mention that as part of my planner update a little bit too,
Oh,
but
good.
what I was gonna mention is, I think what we need to do for the subdivision rules and regs is have the most important issue sheet. Not only the checklist of items, but Okay, have you decided on the open space ownership, the conservation restriction?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, I'll work on that.
Access easements, you know, all, whatever the
When
most
they call
important
me and
issues
say I'm
are,
submitting one
we need to have it out there so that we can follow along more easily, and that should be something that we develop.
So a checklist for us to follow.
Yeah, checklist
Yeah.
for us, not
That's
just
a
the
great
application
idea.
Yeah,
checklist,
there's
but
also the
the issues checklist.
we also said like you mentioned it to
Traffic
Jonathan, that we need to do the open space. So next time someone calls and says, hey, I'm submitting a definitive subdivision, I'm gonna say, hey, by the way, make sure you know or have an idea of who you're giving the open space to, because it'll be one of the number one questions they ask you.
Right.
I have a set of questions and things that I tell the applicants when they come in, like, hey, by the way, they're gonna ask you for this, they're gonna look for this. It may not be in a checklist, it may be buried in our rules of reg, maybe some question that you just ask every time, but that's something I tell them when they come in, because it's one of those things that it's just easier with, because they said 90% of them all of them do for a subdivision will call me or in a site plan and say, hey, I'm submitting this. And that, is there anything I need to know? That's when those, okay, we need to make sure you have this, this, and this. It may be in a checklist, it may not be, but something like that open space, and we don't have a set thing for those yet. And until we come back with whatever you decide to do, that's one of those things that I'll just tell them on the phone, hey, by the way, you're gonna need to think of this now.
Actually, why don't we talk about that as a board, because I'm not sure everyone was familiar with what Mark said, how that is involved. On this two-part deal on the conservation restriction on the open space, and then the ownership of the open space, and the maintenance and so forth. Do you want to follow up a little more on that? So or I can do it, and you go ahead.
Yeah, well, there are basically.
Just so you guys understand.
There are
So
two
this is
pieces.
kind of
There's
important.
who owns the open space, outright, whether it be the homeowners association, the town, or a nonprofit agency, whatever. That's one issue. And then separate from that is, because our bylaw requires it and the state requires it for open space to be preserved permanently, a conservation restriction, conservation easement, that protects the land in perpetuity, and that has to be controlled or managed by an entity separate from the ownership entity, because there could be a conflict of interest there, right?
It's very complicated.
So usually it would be like an environmental firm or an environmental group or a land trust that, has done this. They, hold conservation restrictions, so they know how to review other ones. So both those pieces need to be put in place when these OSRDs are being approved.
So, forgive me for interrupting, but one of the things that I'm puzzled about is, I understand that ownership of the open space means is a fiduciary obligation. You're going to have to, if it's your space, things that happen to it's yours to maintain or fix, etc. So there's money involved. What about the conservation restriction? Is there any money actually involved, or is it just someone
Yes.
holding? Do you want to getting at?
Well, yes, there is, the money is involved in monitoring, so there needs to
Okay.
be, I'm not sure how
Boundaries.
frequently, at
Once
least
a
the
year.
annual, perhaps semi-annual
Reports,
inspections.
monitoring inspections.
And then apparently the state, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts has guidelines and a process and requirements for what
There's
you
a whole,
need
like,
to
there's like
do.
a 10, 12, depending on how
Yeah,
big
it's like
checklist that they go out and they
Right.
go down on
Things you need
those.
to do when monitoring a conservation restriction.
And enforcements that
So
may
those
need
have
to
to
be
be
done.
followed. And so.
They have a definition of what the restriction is, and that's in their rules of the state section,
Yeah.
whatever, of 40B. There's a definition of what it is, and it's kind of similar to other restrictions that are on land. But it specifically requires that you follow their guidelines, as he said, and you have to have monitoring, and you have to write a report, and there's a cost involved.
Okay.
So,
Right, so that,
the way
the
it's
reason
meant-
I.
Okay,
no,
go ahead, go ahead.
The reason I mentioned the homeowners association in combination with the nonprofit or an environmental group monitoring it is that the homeowners association collects dues from the homeowners. And so a certain proportion of that can be used to pay for the conservation restriction
Okay.
monitoring.
That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Yes.
I'm trying to get an understanding of how burdensome each of these components is to potentially, say, the taxpayers of Ayer, et cetera. And so you answered that question. You also answered that the model you suggest seems to make sense. Because obviously a homeowners association really couldn't fulfill that. I see with them struggling to fulfill these monitoring responsibilities that should be held by a professional, but they do have the capacity to generate the money necessary to pay.
Yes.
Saying, here's the dues to do this.
Right.
Done.
Just like they would do for anything else. I mean, they
Exactly.
have, you know, say there was a big lawn that's part of their open space that they use as a common area for picnics or whatever. Somebody's gonna mow that, so you
Right.
gotta have gasoline money and pay the person who's gonna mow it. So they have to collect money
Got it.
anyway, so they,
This is just another thing.
another thing, yeah.
Is it, just to give you a rough sense, is this an expensive thing, this the monitor?
We're researching that
Okay.
very intensively. We hope not, we don't think so.
Subcontract
It's gonna be,
trustees is a good one to have.
you know,
Yeah, I'm just
we'll
kind of
find
curious.
out. We're gonna
Okay.
find out. I've been tasked with doing some research on this right away. So
Okay.
I will know more by the next meeting, but,
So I think the way it's gonna end up, I'm not sure if we all understand it, but it looks like the way it's gonna end up is the town of Ayer may end up holding the conservation restriction. The open space ends up being owned by a homeowners association.
Right.
The homeowners association submits a fee
yeah,
to then allow the town of Ayer to hire a qualified consultant
yes,
who then will carry out the enforcement and regulation and reports required to fulfill the needs of the conservation restriction.
exactly.
And that way, everybody gets
Yeah.
what they want.
It's what we did in Littleton.
Right, that's
For
the,
the town.
that's the framework that's been recommended and talked
Yes.
about. The other thing that's important about this open space is that the reason, the town of Ayer doesn't really think that these particular open spaces on these first two are of a significant enough value for them to own the open space. They'd rather have the homeowners association own the open space. They're not a big deal. But if we get a big subdivision with a small amount of houses in one section and a lot of open
Different
space,
story.
then the town of Ayer may
Yes.
consider it differently. So that's just,
Right.
And also, in particular, it's not just the size, it's the issue of accessibility.
yeah, accessibility.
These
right.
two,
Exactly.
these are difficult
Right.
open
They're not
spaces.
connected.
Accessibility.
Connectivity is a big one.
Exactly.
Does everyone get that?
Many
Yeah,
This is
that's a
something
big
gonna
difference.
hang out there forever,
Mhm.
we talk
Right.
about it, so.
Yeah.
Big difference.
Just want to make
Yeah.
sure everyone got that cleared away.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
All right, subdivision regulations.
Okay.
Next thing on the item for agenda.
Actually, what I'd like to do is, first, if you don't mind, I know we didn't switch this at the beginning, but I'd like to give my little town planner
Oh, sorry.
update
Go ahead.
first, because that will inform our discussion of the timing of the subdivision regs perhaps. And get that, so is in everybody's packet, the
Yeah, everyone
little
has it.
work plan that I put together?
Last page. This one?
Yes, yes. Okay, in order to keep myself on track and keep track of all these different projects, I put forward a sort of a work plan for the remainder of this year and the first quarter, or the first 3 months of 2020. So for this year, just going down the list one by one, there's a need to compile and format a new air zoning bylaw package with the amendments that were passed through the spring 2019 annual town meeting. And that would be the marijuana section and the
Right.
form-based codes. And so that's going to require changes to the text, the tables, and the zoning map. And both Alan and I are working on our respective sections, but then we need somebody who's really good at word formatting to make it all work with the table of contents and how the links work internally and all that stuff. So it's going to take a little while, but I'm hoping not too long. And that, maybe in time for Thanksgiving or between Thanksgiving and Christmas, we'll have the new bylaw package ready with those items. Of course, anything that passes at the fall town meeting, we will have to wait for the Attorney General's approval before we can put those in there. So, but I think there's enough that has changed, especially with the form-based code, that we need a new bylaw package by the end of the year. So that's one of the #1 priorities.
Excuse me. So are you indicating that the Attorney General has approved those by your?
Yes, the
Yes.
form-based code and the marijuana
I didn't hear that
bylaw
before.
were approved.
They were.
Oh, we didn't hear that at one point.
Oh, really?
Nobody says that to us, so.
Yeah, we didn't know
Don't
that.
give us that information.
Yeah, that's news to me.
Okay, all right. Well,
Well, that's it. It's been.
it was very low-key. There was something from the town clerk that said, see Attorney General
Yeah, I
letter.
think I submitted something down to her, and she's like, oh, here, by the way. I'm like, oh, okay, sweet.
Yeah, they passed. So yes, both the marijuana enterprises
It's good for
and the form-based code passed.
Don't you think that's important to do?
So we
I'm
can,
sorry, I'm parenting again. What do you need?
Never mind.
Oh, last time I wasn't even told, so it's fine.
Okay, so we know that's done, so you can
yeah,
make the
so we gotta
revisions.
do a new zoning bylaw
bylaw.
package. Okay, with the subdivision regs, one thing I thought there was, one benefit, I guess you could say, of us delaying action on finalizing the subdivision regs is we have the learning experience of these first two subdivisions as far as the dimensional requirements and the road width and all that sort of stuff that we got comments from DPW and all this, so we might need to amend some of the stuff that we already put in there. That's the design standards. Speaking with the town manager, he was hoping that we could adopt the new regs by the end of the calendar year, but I'm thinking that might be pushing it, especially with the subdivision and other things. So we have to get going on it very quickly, and I'm thinking it might be more realistic to aim for adoption of the regulations by the end of January, early February. And if we held the public hearing on January 28th, you know, we'd have a chance to have a second hearing if something needs to change.
And then,
And then they're adopted. We don't need to go to town meeting.
We don't?
No,
No,
not with
regulations.
regulations.
No town meeting.
How do you
Not
know
with
that?
regulations.
Oh.
Only
Regulations
zoning.
are, public hearings, zoning
Zoning
bylaw
bylaw.
amendments are
Right.
town meeting.
You have to do
So-
Oh, I'm sorry, repeat, zoning bylaws require
Zoning
town meeting,
bylaw,
but regulations?
regulations are a public hearing.
That's it?
That's it.
Yeah,
So any changes to
Right.
your regulations have to be done in a public hearing.
yeah.
Except it has to be advertised, it's a standard.
Of course,
public
no, I
hearing.
get that,
Right.
okay.
You
So
gotta
hence
follow
why
all
you're-
that.
Okay.
Smaller town boards will have.
Right, and that's why many
Big
towns like to
bylaws.
have, you know, the meat, the hardcore stuff in the zoning, the stuff that everybody needs to be aware of and approve as a town meeting body, but the fine details of, you know, how wide the sidewalk will be, that can be done in a regulation. And that's the reason they split it up that way, so.
Things can change on the fly.
Also, I think the subdivision regs should include a section on the OSRD subdivision design guidelines, you know, such as the preferred layout of open space, the extent of which or whether any stormwater facilities will be allowed in the open space.
Exactly.
Guidance on the policy and ownership of the open spaces. We were
Yes.
just in control of the conservation restriction. So because we have the experience of these two subdivisions going into this process now, we'll be able to, I think, better incorporate these
Agreed.
factors into that.
Especially a clarification of the definition of open space and what can be or cannot be included in the
Right,
calculation.
yes, yes. So,
Because there's been some
We'll have some-
ambiguity in there, yeah.
right, good work sessions on that. Okay,
Oh, and just by, like, for example, like the playground idea. Like,
Right.
just that kind of thing. Like, is that part of open space or not? You know, that's just the kind of question that would be
we need to
included.
discuss, okay?
Exactly. Okay, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Then the bigger picture items, you know, for B is for the period ending at March 31st. One of the highest priority, and you know, because you did
It's right in the master
is
plan,
the
yeah.
Petawawa Overlay District is aimed to better preserve the northern part of town. It's
Yep.
pretty much wilderness on the Groton border. So I've started to think about that and, you know, do some research, but that's about all it's gotten into. So I need to develop a process, you know, decide if we're going to have like a little ad hoc committee working on that sort of thing. But that will be put forward at the Springtown meeting. That's the goal.
Let me ask you a question on that.
Yes.
Being, maybe I might be the only resident that actually lives within that district, in this board.
Yeah.
Do you understand, I'm not sure if you've read the actual Petawawa, the ACEC regulations and the documents that were put together when that was determined to be an area of critical
Right.
environmental concern. And
Actually, I did read them a while ago, and I found
It's
them.
very thick, and it was a
Oh.
process that took years,
Yeah.
and it lacks any enforcement. And
It's-
having been on the phone with the state regarding it and its enforcement, was basically told that, yeah, you know, great idea, but we don't have enough people to take care of those
No.
ACECs and their oversight, so forth and
Right.
so on. So I would be prepared for a major battle that you think you're gonna get an overlay district on top of the ACEC. That's my own opinion.
Well, we'll see. I mean,
Is there any landowner out there that,
we don't want to make it onerous. In fact, there might be some element of like transfer development rights where you allow increased number of units and density around the town center in exchange for preserving land up there. There are all these sorts of things that could be done.
Yeah, I think
So
that'd be-
we wanted to make it attractive to the landowners
Yeah.
and while protecting, Ayer's last remaining wild areas. in this
No
protection.
kidding.
So, then the other thing that I need to do soon is we need administrative regulations for the marijuana establishment bylaw. I mean, we have the zoning bylaw passed, but we need just basically, all the
Right.
everything from the application forms to the process and the timelines of going through the planning board, all that needs to be worked out a little bit. We bought ourselves some time because nobody can apply for one of these in front of the planning board until they get their provisional license from the Cannabis Control Commission, and that can take a while. So, so by acting on this and, by the early spring, I think we'll be in good shape. But that's something that has to be done, so that's why it's on the list.
The only thing that we'll be considering there are the commercial, because we don't have any more retail.
Correct.
Correct, yeah, it's non-retail.
Site plan.
It's,
Yeah.
site plan review for the cultivation facilities mostly.
Most of them.
And then C, I'd like to get back into considering, with your input, what topics we'd like to see for planning board training. If possibly, you'd like to do this on a quarterly basis, every 3 months. We had Jeff Lacy come to speak to us about general concepts for open space design back in the late summer last year. But one thing that I've been trying to get lined up is off-site improvements and exactions for both site plan and subdivision applications,
Yes.
because that's a gray area. That's something that came to light with the Global Montello application. I think it's important. I'm still gonna.
Again, the applicant's not here, but I held off talking about that. I had it on my list because I thought
yeah.
we gave him enough tonight to keep going. But
Right.
we ultimately are going to reach a point where we're going to be asking
We're going to be
for
talking about
potential
those.
off-site
Yes.
improvements
And I
to the
think,
Aho project,
exactly.
which may concern the guardrail along the existing Shaker
Right.
Road and, other improvements.
And what I, yeah.
Things like that. So we do have the ability to ask for that under subdivision.
Right. And what I see the workshop is being able to inform us about is, what is, how do you determine the rational nexus
Exactly.
between the impact of the project and the requirement that you're making them do? I mean,
Yes.
you can't have, the Aho subdivision repave 2A, for instance,
Right.
that's a, ridiculous thing, but, maybe some towns in the past have tried to get a relatively small applicant to do these major things, like build us a new library, and that's why the court cases came out, and they determined there has to be a rational nexus or relationship between the impact of the development and the requirement that you can ask them to do.
So that's one I'd be interested in hearing from an expert on right
Yes,
away.
I've been trying to line that up through the Citizen Planner Training Collaborative as a special session, because they will do those. It might cost a little bit, but I think it's worth it.
Okay.
I do too.
Traffic impact studies, so it could be any sort of things, and I'd like to hear from board members. You could just send me an email or call me saying,
Well,
I thought about this as a great planning board training, and I know this person who could do it, whatever.
I have a topic I think it is pretty important. I would love to have an expert address. And that's this. Ken alerted me to a talk from the National River Watershed Association, and there was an expert speaker talking about what can we expect, with climate change in the next 50 years? What can we anticipate for the impact on the watershed and what the large implications of that? And obviously it's not appropriate to go into all of it, but here's a key thing. One of the big takeaways is how important it is to preserve whatever woodlands you have and let them get older, because mathematically, the bigger the trees are, the more carbon they sequester. So what I recognize immediately is that there's a profound conflict that we have to address, which is a deep need for housing and a need to do as much as we can to preserve forested land as much as possible. So what I'd love to have an expert talk to us about is, well, how does an effective and responsible planning board navigate between these two profound needs? What are our options? And I'd love to have that as a topic of conversation, because one way or another, every single thing we come up with that's presented to us touches on either one or both of those things.
Well, I'll piggyback on that as a solution, but a topic also, which is, now that we have the form-based code for downtown, West Main Street,
Yeah.
one of the ways to address that problem, Jonathan, is to have more development downtown.
That's right.
So I'll make a request right now, Mark, which is maybe not as urgent as some of the other ones, but out there, I have no idea what questions we'll come up with, and we're trying to develop a parcel or a couple parcels that are right downtown, and you're getting into utilities and
The form-based code prescriptively tells you what's going to be allowed there, so we
Right.
actually should be doing considerably less
but
when those developments come up.
do they? Who's responsible to improve the sidewalk, to
Yeah.
police detail?
Oh, yeah.
Right. There's just a whole bunch of
The
other
implementation,
questions.
yeah, the implementation of form-based code, and
Yeah.
I've had this conversation with Alan too, it's like, Alan, we have to develop the administrative aspect of this in the process.
Exactly.
I mean, but that's one thing,
Yeah.
but also, I think once we start getting applications under that, we will see, yes, we have to do this and this, and the planning board will have a role in that, even though a lot of it is prescriptive, and they come in, they meet the formula,
Right.
still, there's this new skill set that we all need to learn in order to properly manage that.
Right.
And a consultant, maybe Alan himself, I'm not sure, but
John,
as we-
somebody on the outside possibly.
To touch on
speak
the
about it.
climate change thing,
Yeah,
it's called don't allow them to clear cut subdivisions.
that's part of it. That's
Right.
fine. I will just note what you just said about form-based code, Mark. I want to add to that.
Be a big one.
Just as
Easy done.
water always seeks its level, engineers will find any gap, any loophole, any
Yes.
missing thing, like form-based code. And just as we
Right.
discovered OSRD, I guarantee that we're gonna find unexpected things about form-based code that we hadn't anticipated when we start seeing plans come to us.
Well, and then we'll have to fix them like we did
Exactly.
with everything.
No, I'm just saying we should be prepared for that.
Oh,
And
yeah.
that's another thing.
Yes.
And tying into what Nate just asked is make sure that we're adequately prepared for proposals that come before us in these new FBC zoning districts, because we've already learned something with OSRD. Stuff happens.
Yeah. Okay, so that's what I have under town planner update, and I know that was supposed to segue into subdivision regs, and
I think you did.
do you have something more to add to that, Ken, or?
The only thing I'd add on the subdivision regs is if members of the board would have time to look over the regulations that we sent out, then that would make it
I have 2 more copies if
I
anyone
was gonna-
needs one.
Yeah. Ken, did you want to direct us to specific areas of the subdivision
Well,
regulations for?
I got a date next to this, July 9th of 19 is when we first started.
I know.
talking about this. But at that time, we talked about those
I was gonna do
priorities.
digitally.
No, I know I have them. I
Yeah.
want to know if there was something in particular, especially important to really, because someone like that,
Yeah, you just reminded me,
Okay.
so thank you, that was good. Yes, so those sections that we talked about back then
Yeah.
were 4, 6, and 7.
Yep.
And I've got another note here, and when I see this other note, it reminds me of something. Also, our common and shared driveway discussion, which we should
Oh,
be talking
man.
about with the AHO plan as well.
Yeah.
no kidding.
Bear in mind that as a planning board, there is no as of right, for common and shared driveways. And there's actually a definition for both of them, hard to believe. The shared driveway is supposed to be 2 people sharing a driveway. And a common driveway is more than 2.
Yeah.
3 and up. That's a definition. We don't even have a definition like that.
Not 2 people, 2 houses.
2 houses.
One other item you want to look at when you start discussing
Right,
that part is giving that to the fire department for their
Right.
feedback on.
But they're gonna do that with but we have another whole section of our, maybe the OSRD even, that DPW brings up, and that they believe that there should be a homeowners association or some kind of an agreement that says who's taking care of those snow plowing when you have more than one unit on a driveway.
Right, there are all kinds of
So
issues.
we may face that in, we didn't say that, we didn't talk about this in our first approval. We let it go, we didn't talk about it.
But it's critical, but I mean, plowing is the most obvious.
Right, but
But there could be a whole bunch of things that need attention. A tree falls over, who's responsible for clearing?
Repaving.
But the point I wanted to
Repaving,
make is
right?
that we don't, there's no as of right for common driveways. We can deny common driveways we see on these plans. We don't have to approve them. So they're shown because that's the way to get the unit count
That's
up.
always Charlie's comment.
Yeah, well, that's,
We don't have to approve them. There's nothing that
Right.
says anywhere that they're allowed by right. They're only by planning board approval, is what I'm getting at. That's what it states, planning board approval. So we should be looking at these plans, and if we really feel bad, uncomfortable about a common driveway because it's
Yeah.
got this unusual shape or someone's behind another guy's house, we can say we don't approve that.
And in fact, if I'm a little rusty because I haven't looked at the subdivision regulations recently, but I do recall it was very specific about why common driveways were encouraged specifically to minimize curb cuts under certain situations. That's the reason for it. It's not, as you said, it's not an as of right. There was a specific reason. Is that in the bylaws?
It's in the bylaw, yeah. That's the reason. You're right.
well, one of the problems why we're seeing overuse of common driveways in both these first two subdivisions is because of the
The
formula.
count,
Right.
yeah.
It results in too many lots, and so in order to even come close to what the formula tells you you need, you have to do all these common driveways to get to the lot.
Exactly.
So with the yield plan, which
That's
hopefully
key.
everybody will vote on and pass it at town meeting on Monday, we'll get subdivisions that are more close to what you get in a conventional plan, where you have to account for the road, you account for all these things, it'll decrease the number of lots. We'll have more elbow room for the lots, for the, we'll reduce common driveways. I think they'll be much better,
Okay,
but
anybody else? Have anything to add to the discussion? No? Anything?
No.
Julie? Thank you. Jonathan?
No, good, thank you, Ken.
Okay, based on that, we have old business and new business. Any old business?
What?
That's not-
You good?
no.
Okay.
And any new business that we haven't talked about in the town plan or some other section?
We're not aware of any other imminent applications.
Nope.
No.
I have something that's potentially old business. And Ruth is sitting there, so seeing Ruth, it reminded me. We
Is that
approved,
flat?
the planning board approved, prior to most of us being on the planning board, a development on 41 East Main Street. And she's making a size, so I understand there's a possibility that he's looking into not just building the 4 new units and connecting them to the old home, but the discussion I heard offline was, would you like to follow up on that, Mark? That he's looking into potentially demolishing that older home.
Yeah, that's all I know is he's thinking of demolishing the existing building.
The plan, the building permit plans are in front of Charlie right now. He's gonna, I think, be looking at them tomorrow for the most part, so. And it's a matter, he's trying to match everything up. I've given him everything that I have on the planning board side as far as decisions and site plan approvals go. So he's looking at that and figuring out what he's gonna have to do, if send him back or what.
So that was gonna be my question.
Yeah,
So
we're still
Charlie
working
will
on
do
that.
that.
Yes.
And if there's a determination by our zoning enforcement
Officer,
officer and
yes.
building commissioner, who's Mr. Schultz,
Who's the one who gets the site
Right.
approvals is
then
addressed to
he'll have
him.
to send it back to us
Correct. And back to Board of Health.
and back to the Board of Health.
Yes.
Because it's an aquifer protection.
And they are
section.
no, what happened is because the Board of Health actually has to submit a comment
Right.
as part of the bylaw on the aquifer, so they will receive it and they will meet with them.
Okay.
Just as a courtesy, because they did actually issue the first approval.
Okay, but the reason I'm bringing it up with the planning board is that there's an outside chance that this could come back to us.
Oh, yes, there is.
Because the house gets demolished, it's a change in the plan.
Yeah.
That
It's
sure
a
is.
major
Yeah,
change
that would be
in the plan that was
change.
approved.
Yeah.
So if it comes back to us, all you guys will have a chance to look at that.
That's the corner lot with the big beech tree they took down. right?
Yes.
And the gazebo.
Gazebo,
right.
yes.
Yeah.
With a whole new owner now. So it's
Yeah.
a whole new.
It's a whole new owner.
No more Mark Sater.
Right, it's a new owner.
New owner.
A new developer who bought it and wants to develop it and do it. Was given a drawing that had, 4, a condo group, townhouse group of 4 connected to the old home. This is a thing that went on for years, long before we were here, like 7 or 8 years. So, the first part of the discussion was that you could not put 2 buildings on one lot. he was gonna put up 4 new buildings, one building with 4 units next to an existing antique home. That's not allowed, we don't allow more than 1 building on a lot. So that they connected the 2 buildings with a breezeway. Interesting architectural way to create 1 building. And the existing house has 3 units in it, 3 rental units.
Clever
And
engineers.
the decision was that he would
That's a
reduce the
common
3 rental to
concept.
2 units, therefore coming up with 6 new units. And that got him within, some guidelines and whatnot. But now, the question, if the old home cannot be saved, it could come up with a whole new configuration.
Are there any historical
That's what I was wondering, no?
constraints in?
I thought the house had some historical value, no?
This-
Anything over 50 years is by Mass Historical Commission is historic.
Anything what?
Obviously, there's historic elements associated with the house and architecture and the residence and so forth. So your short answer is yes.
This is historical significance, but whether we have any authority over it.
No,
Exactly, that's the tricky part, right?
Okay.
That's a shame.
That's just, that's old business, basically. Nothing else for me.
Minutes?
I have a quick question. Just because something was said earlier, and I just want to make sure I understood it. I'm sorry, it's not directly planning, but Conservation Commission's site walks are not open to anyone beyond the Conservation Commission.
The applicant.
And the
And the owner of the land.
And that includes the butters.
Correct.
Correct.
Thank you.
It's
Yeah.
private property, that's why.
But-
You can't invite the public
But
on
you
a
can
private
stand on your
property.
property.
You very well can.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Oh,
Thank you.
okay.
Okay.
But we're invited to the
We
walk
were
on
invited.
Saturday.
Yeah,
Never
because
mind.
this is, yeah.
Typically, they ask the other board who's involved in the decision to go along.
It was
And
actually
it's a good
awesome to
idea.
mention that. It was
It was
a good
nice,
idea.
yeah.
Will that be most properties?
Excuse me?
Would that be on most properties?
Probably not ones that only involve a single family home or two homes. More or less,
Multiple
with
neighbors.
multiple family homes, it could be
Okay.
more prevalent.
Thank you.
But
Okay.
anything else?
No.
Okay, accept a motion to adjourn.
Minutes.
Minutes.
we got
Minutes.
to-
Minutes. Go to the end of the meeting now.
Almost, man.
Minutes have been moved to the end of the meeting
Next
per,
item on the agenda. is
per the chair's
approval of the
request.
meeting minutes from October 8th.
I feel so terrible because I did proof it, and then it was just a crazy, I forgot to send it to you.
yeah,
but you
and I
said
did,
that
Ken called me
Ken
with a
sh-
few minor
he's
corrections,
probably got them all.
along with the addition of Mr. Curtis's discussion on the length of trucks that he would allow to deliver to his property,
Okay.
which he did mention, which I did add a sentence to that.
Yeah, okay. They need to respond only 20%.
Is it in this, the latest
Yes,
one?
it is.
Oh, okay, do you know what page it was?
I think the second page, second or third, towards the top. I didn't quite know how to word it, Ken, if you want to
Good.
change it. I
No,
think
it's
that's the best, because I didn't want to make it say that he stated he can. I wanted it to be more of a suggestion, but at least it was stated that he did say it.
I think if everyone agrees, when they look at that sentence, that we had quite a discussion.
Oh, I see.
With Mr. Curtis, and he offered to call his vendors. He said, I control the vendors.
Yes, he did.
And he said, I can call the vendors and require them to put nothing longer than a 20-foot.
20 foot, so I put that on there, and I added the 20 foot rather than 40 foot.
Who is this Irishman right away? Who is this guy?
Yeah.
Is that the way it's?
That's how, yeah.
It
it's how
goes
it-
right away?
Yeah, same thing right over, yeah, same thing
Cool.
with
Got it.
cul-de-sac.
All right.
Did I miss an of? Did I put O in there?
Oh, is that okay? Is it-
Oh, yeah, I gotta
Left,
put
yeah.
of, yeah, I'll fix that.
You know what, there's a number of those, just do a spell, just
Oh, okay.
say- You know how to do that, search and replace?
Yes,
Right away for right of way?
Yeah.
That's it, that's all I have to
okay,
comment
there we go.
Because it's in multiple places.
That was, maybe I had lucky charms that day.
Ow.
Sorry.
We'll just go around the table and ask if anyone has any further comments to the minutes.
I'll make that minor,
No, I
minor
cannot.
changes
No,
then.
good. So,
I won't affect
you looking
page
for a
count.
motion, Chair?
He's wondering if you have any comments or changes to the minutes.
No.
Sorry to speak for you, Chair.
This one. As mentioned by our professional, Heather, I did take a quick look at them. I thought they were very good, and only was a few changes.
Yeah, they are, yeah.
Thank you. I had the same comment from the Board of Health last night. Thank you. Apparently my
based on
11 and a
that,
half
there's no
years of
other changes,
experience
we'll
has got
accept
me
the
master
motion.
minutes.
to accept the minutes of October 8th.
So moved.
Seconded.
The moved and seconded to approve the minutes of the planning board meeting of October 8th. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Unanimous. You want me to sign this one?
Yes, please, because it's just a matter of adding an F to
That's
several
being the last
places.
item on the agenda. I'll accept the motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
The moved and seconded to adjourn.
All right.
We need it.